Hey Rip It fans, this is Trent with Rip It Racket Stringing. As you can see, it's raining here in Naples, Florida, so there won't be any tennis this afternoon. So I thought I would take this opportunity to share with you a comparison video between the Tecnifibre Ergo One stringing machine and the Babolat Star 5. The Babolat Star 5 has been around since the early 2000s here in the United States, and you actually can't buy one new at this point, though you can still find some that are used. The Tecnifibre Ergo One, manufactured also in France, can still be purchased new, and you can also find them used, though they are more difficult to find at this point. The initial price point on these machines is significant for both. However, currently the Tecnifibre Ergo One is a more expensive machine than the Babolat Star 5 on the used market. The first thing I want to compare between these two machines is their portability. The Babolat Star 5 is a fairly heavy machine, weighing in at about 120 pounds between the top and the base, and it's two major pieces. You can remove just the top and transport it that way, and you can operate the Babolat Star 5 as a tabletop machine. The Tecnifibre Ergo One is actually heavier. It's about 130 pounds, and it is not easy to move. However, the main selling point, or one of the main selling points on the Tecnifibre Ergo One, is its portability. It's specifically designed to be a professional level machine that you can transport around with you to tournaments. What makes this machine more portable than the Star 5 is the fact that it breaks down into three major pieces. You can take off the turntable, you can take off the electronic mechanism, and then you also have the base, and that also breaks down into a couple of pieces. Overall, it's a heavier machine, but when it comes to these two machines, the Tecnifibre Ergo One gets the edge for portability. The Babolat Star 5, even though it is slightly lighter, the top is all one unit, and it is very heavy, and it's hard to mount this with one person. So the Tecnifibre Ergo One is designed to be able to set up and tear down with just one person. Next, let's talk about the ease of adjusting the height of these two machines. The Star 5 is not easily adjustable. When you're just assembling the machine, that's the easiest time to adjust it. There is a mounting post with an Allen wrench screw, and you can raise and lower the mount by yourself before you've put the top on. Once you put the top on, if you want to raise or lower the height, you really need somebody who's going to raise the machine for you so that you can get it to the height you want and then lock it in. The Ergo One gets the edge in terms of ease of adjustability. It has a hydraulic system with a screw here on the side. You just simply twist the crank, and then you can raise or lower the machine as you desire. Now, the max height on this machine is right here. It doesn't go any higher than this. You can lower it some. So the Star 5 is actually able to go higher than the Ergo One, but if you're talking about just ease of raising it or lowering it a little bit, the Ergo One gets the edge. Now let's talk about the ease of stringing on these two machines. I'm going to give the edge here to the Star 5, and I'll tell you why. When you're stringing a racket on the Ergo One, this part is pretty easy. It gets a little bit difficult around the mounts to weave the strings, but they're basically equal in that regard, with the edge again being for the Star 5. But when it comes to actually pulling tension on the machine, the placement of this button when you're wanting to pull tension requires me to reach down with my pinky and push the button. The Star 5, on the other hand, when you're pulling it, has the button really conveniently located right here on the back. And it's such a light touch to get that thing to activate. This one requires a little bit more of a push, and I just find it takes me a little bit longer every time I want to pull tension on the Ergo One. Not a huge deal, but it is a difference, and I think the Babolat Star 5 is slightly easier to string in that regard. The second reason why the Star 5 is a little bit faster, if not easier for me to string on, has to do with the string guide, or the Diablo. As you can see, the Tecnifibre Ergo One has this flat string guide, and the string needs to go underneath of the guide and into the string area here. This has the traditional Diablo, and it's much faster to whip the string around there and pull than it is to guide it under and over on the Ergo One. Now, you can mitigate that slowdown just a bit by removing this piece, and I've seen people doing that, and it seems not to affect the machine at all or the quality of the string job. But I'm going to give the edge to the Star 5 for ease of stringing. Now let's talk about the mounting system between the two machines. The Star 5 has a very easy to use mounting system, and I've used oversized rackets, small rackets. I'm able to get everything to fit on here without any special adjusters or special mounts. The knobs are very easy to maneuver. It's very easy to get these billets to go in and out and the arms to close, and they hold the racket securely. The Ergo One has a movable post. Actually has two movable posts on either side. These posts are fixed. This one moves. For mounting purposes alone, I actually like the movable arm, and I appreciate the flat mounting system that the Ergo One has. I do feel like once you get it locked in and you get these side arms, which also are controlled by knobs like on the Star 5, once you get the racket locked in, it's very secure and it takes nice, gentle care of the racket. I've not had any issues with the Star 5 with the security of the racket. However, it does just feel slightly less secure, so I would give the edge on the mounting system to the Ergo One. Next, let's compare the clamps. The guide rails on the Star 5 are smooth, but you wouldn't say they are slippery. The guide rails on the Ergo One I would call slippery. These move easier than any clamp rails I've ever worked on. Which is preferable? Well, it ultimately is going to be a personal preference. I found after working on both of these machines, I actually prefer the slightly more resistance that I get from the Star 5 clamps. They're not slow. It's easy to get the clamps where I want them to be. But occasionally I find when I'm working on this one that the clamps are moving on me when I'm not actually wanting them to move. So I'm going to give the movability of the Star 5 the edge here. What about the clamps themselves? The Star 5 clamps are exceptional. You can see they have the 3 teeth as compared to the 5 teeth on the Ergo One. Both of them hold the strings extremely well. The Babolat Star 5 clamps also have a coating on the clamps that enables the string to really be gripped nicely by the clamp. This one does not have a coating, but I've never had an issue with the string slipping. Both of them are adjustable with the knobs. They're very similar in that regard. I will say that with the Ergo One, I have occasionally noticed that if I'm doing multiple rackets in a row, occasionally I've noticed these clamps just loosening ever so slightly. And so I'll have to pay attention when I'm doing multiple rackets in a row to just make sure that that isn't loosening up and that I don't have a string slip. Never had that problem with the Star 5 clamps. So with regard to the security of the string, I'm going to give the edge again to the Star 5. What about getting to the strings and clamping them close to the grommets on the racket? In that case, you cannot do better than the Ergo One's clamps. This particular clamp design enables the clamp to get right up against the edge of a racket in between strings in a way that this one doesn't. Now, to be fair to the Star 5, it actually gets into those tight spaces better than you would expect. However, you can't get closer than you can get with the 5-toothed Ergo One. On the whole, I'm going to give the edge to the Star 5, but the Ergo One clamps are fantastic and there's nothing to complain of with them. Another thing that I prefer when it comes to the bass clamps for the Star 5 versus the Ergo One is that I have a little bit more room to work between the bass clamps of the Star 5 than I do on the base clamps of the Ergo One. These clamps occasionally, I find them getting in each other's way. That never is a problem for me on the Star 5, and I find that I prefer that. Now let's compare the table brakes on the two machines. Both of them have brakes. Neither of them have an auto brake. They're both manual, but here's how they each work. The Babolat Star 5 has a knob that you can turn a few times to get the brake to lock. Now, this is in the locked position, but you can see that the turntable still moves quite a bit. It's not a very effective lock. I think it's the weakest aspect of this machine. On the other hand, the Ergo One has a lever on the side, essentially a screw, and when you lock it into place, that turntable does not budge. And it's quite easy to lock and unlock. It's just a very simple movement. So whenever you're stringing a racket where you want to be using the turntable, like a Prince O-ring, for example, those rackets I much prefer stringing on the Ergo One because of the table brake. Now let's take a look at the digital interfaces of the two machines and compare them. The Star 5 has a very simple digital interface, and it's very easy to use. To adjust the tension, you just simply need to press the positive or the negative keys. When you're adjusting in pounds, it will go up by ½ pound at a time. If you want to do anything else, you need to press and hold the shift key, which point it beeps, and then as you press it, it cycles its way through the menu. You have the opportunity to lock, you have the opportunity to switch between pounds and kilograms, and when you go to kilograms, the intervals when you're changing the tension level move at smaller intervals. I believe you can go up by 0.1 kilogram at a time. You can adjust knot tension when you're doing your knot pull. You can adjust the pre-stretch up to 20%. You can turn on and off the beep. You can change languages, see some information about how many rackets you've strung, how many pulls, how long the machine has been operating, and doing some basic adjustments. As well, you can calibrate the machine, which is not simple, but it is doable. And anytime you move the machine, that's something that should be considered. As you can see, the interface on the Tecnifibre Ergo One is slightly more complicated, though not much. They're both very simple and minimalist. To change the tension on the Ergo One, you just simply choose the poundage, 45.0, and it enters automatically. Very simple to set the tension, and it's slightly faster than setting the tension on the Star 5 because you don't have to scroll up and down through the various options. You can change the kilograms and pounds very simply. It's just a one button push. To change the pre-stretch, again, you don't have to cycle through a menu. You just press the button multiple times. You can change the speed of the pull, which is something you cannot do on the Star 5 just by pushing that button. There are 3 pulling speeds. You can set a different tension for the crosses that you're pulling, and you can adjust this a number of pounds in order to do that, and it will stay there for one pull. You can also adjust the knot tension and raise and lower that. I believe 6 pounds is the max, yes, that you can adjust the knot tension. And that also remains for just one pull. Now on this one, you notice you can't cycle through and see how many pulls have been done, how many rackets have been strung. You just have this basic information, and the aim is for it to be simple. So between the Ergo One and the Babolat Star 5, which is the better digital interface? For ease of use, I'm going to say the Ergo One. It's very simple, it's clean, it works like a charm. For overall functionality, I give the edge to the Star 5. The fact that you can calibrate that machine, whereas I've not been able to find out yet that if you can calibrate the Ergo One, but it doesn't seem that you can. So the ability to calibrate, the ability to see how many rackets you've strung, which can be helpful when you're in the resale process to share that information with a buyer. I would give the edge to the Star 5 for that. When it comes to pulling knot tension, I'm also going to give the edge to the Star 5. On the Ergo One, you have to press the knot button before you pull the knot pull. On the Babolat Star 5, you pull the tension and then you push the shift key in order to get that extra knot tension. I find for my own mind, I like pushing the knot button after I've done the pull. Then I want to try to remember to push the button before that final knot pull. So I'm going to give the edge to the Star 5 on that as well. Now let's compare the tool trays of the two machines. As you can see, the tool tray on the Ergo One is on the back of the machine. It's not particularly large, but it is large enough to hold the main tools that you'd want to use while you're stringing. It also has this nice felt surface, but it does not come out, which can make cleaning it a little more challenging. The Star 5 has a similarly sized tool tray, but it's on the front of the machine, and the little rubber pad comes out, and that makes it easy to throw away the little pieces of string that accumulate over time when you're cutting string. When it comes to the tool tray, I'm going to go again with the Star 5. The convenience of having the tool tray right up front as opposed to having to reach over the machine, it's a small difference, but I find that with speed, it makes a small difference. And oftentimes as stringers, we're looking to be as efficient with our time as we can. And so I prefer the location of the tool tray on the Star 5. So in conclusion, which is the better machine, the Babolat Star 5 or the Tecnifibre Ergo One? If you can get your hand on either one of these machines, they are going to be an excellent machine that's going to do a quality string job for a lot of years to come. If you're really needing the portability, you plan to take it around to tournaments, then you probably want to go with the Tecnifibre Ergo One. It is more maneuverable. You can set it up, take it down by yourself. For my purposes and most of the stringing that I do, I find that the Babolat Star 5 serves my needs and those of my clients a little bit better than the Tecnifibre Ergo One. Having said that, I string frequently on the Ergo One and I really enjoy it. There's something particularly wonderful about the quality of the craftsmanship that makes it a real pleasure to string on. But when I'm needing to do a bunch of rackets and quickly, I tend to go back over and over again to the Star 5. Both of them are great machines. I'm really glad I get the chance to string on both of them, and I hope this is helpful for you as you're thinking perhaps about purchasing the one or the other. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet to our channel, I hope that you do so. We want to keep bringing you good content, and we appreciate any feedback you have for us on what is helpful or what you'd like to hear more about. Thanks so much.